Hello, welcome to episode 3 of my journey with myositis. In episode 2, I foolishly thought that I could put a card on the side to take you to episode 1. Then I learned that cards are not, I can't move the card, so the card is actually going to be up there. That'll take you to episode 1 if you want to start at the beginning of this series. If you just want to continue with today's, I would like to once again seek faces, people to send me the pictures of their faces as reactionary faces for me to include in the episodes. Last week we were introduced to Stacy's face, the face of I'm just not that impressed with you right now. Just a reminder. But I was hoping to use other people's faces, and if I do use some this week, I didn't get a lot of submissions, so the faces may not match exactly the emotions I'm trying to express. In that case, we can consider it kind of like Mad Libs with faces. I'm sure many of you must remember what Mad Libs are. If you do want to send me your face, though, please send it to myositisjourney@gmail.com, and I'll try to include it in future episodes. Since the last time we met, I've had some procedures done. I had the EMG, which stands for electromyography. That's a procedure where I go and see a neurologist, and I have a picture of the pre-time when I was getting set up for the procedure. I'll post it up on the side here. I don't think my face really looks like that. I'm thinking maybe the nurse was shaking when she took the photo because my head looks really stretched. Anyway, I have all these pads heating my right hand and my right foot, and I had to ask the neurologist when I went in, what is that for? And he said that if people's hands or feet are cold, it kind of screws up the test results. So he heats everybody up, and it was very toasty. So just to describe what an EMG is like, there's 2 steps to it. The first step, they tape these little sensors at the end of your finger or on your toes, and then they put electrical charges through your muscles, like in your arm or your shin or wherever, and your muscles all twitch and stuff, and it's interesting. It doesn't hurt. It's more like a little bit of surprise. Maybe we could call it shocking. And the second part of the test, though, is much more unpleasant. In that part of the test, they have a needle that they jab into your muscles, and then they ask you to flex or relax the muscles. And then the needle is like a microphone, so that you hear sounds coming out of the speaker. And so when you're flexing a muscle, the sounds sound like really bad static on a CB radio or something, that kind of sounds. And when you're relaxed, the sounds go away. And so that test was much more painful. They stick the needle into your shin, into your ankle. One goes into a groin muscle, which surprisingly is one of the least painful of the needle pokes. The most painful one for me was in the bicep, because in that one, usually you're flexing a muscle that's far from where the needle goes in. But in the bicep case, it really felt like I was flexing the bicep while the needle was in, and it had to go in pretty deep. So that was kind of painful, but I survived. The results of that EMG were that the doctor determined that I didn't have nerve damage. The report also indicates that I have some muscle necrosis, and so that kind of just adds towards the evidence for my diagnosis of myositis. I didn't talk previously about which antibody I had tested positive for, so when I had the myositis blood panel run, the antibody that I tested positive for is called anti-SRP. And if you read the lab results, they sound kind of scary. So the anti-SRP antibody is associated with more aggressive forms of myositis that have, quicker atrophy kind of things. But the other thing that's kind of special, I guess, about my myositis is that it's not necessarily an inflammatory one. So from reading the results that I've had and the discussions with the doctors, it seems like I may have necrotizing myositis, which is different from most of the other myositis, in that most of them are inflammatory, and so when they do a muscle biopsy, they'll find inflammation in the muscle tissue. Necrotizing myopathy feels the same to the patient, but there's usually not much inflammation. So the treatment that I'm probably going to be starting next week is called IVIG. That stands for intravenous immunoglobulin, and that's a process where every 3 weeks they hook me up to an IV, and for 2 or 3 hours, and I take a blood product that's made from blood donations, And the theory is that it helps stabilize my immune system. Maybe it fights against some of the things that are, attacking my muscles, and just kind of stabilizes my immune system. So I'm sure we'll talk more about that in the future. In today's episode, I had big plans. I thought we were going to do both a big food discussion as well as some sports activities, just to document my sports abilities. But I think we're only going to have time for the food stuff, so we'll have to save the sports things for next week. The food stuff is just really more about the anti-inflammatory diet that I referenced in episode 1, and I did receive a lot of questions about it. The most basic way to describe the anti-inflammatory diet is that I'm removing all of the foods that are high in glycemic index, so any refined flours, any refined sugars, basically can't eat white bread, white rice, anything that has added sugars on the nutritional information, so like fruit juices, anything that has sugar, basically I can't eat these days. And so my diet has consisted mostly of vegetables, fish, a lot of salmon, a lot of nuts, and meats, beef and chicken I've been eating too, but I just haven't been eating the rice. So the biggest changes have been, I've been having cereal that I like to eat, I haven't been having bread. But I have been introduced to a lot of interesting products. Maybe we'll talk about those after we go to the kitchen, because we're going to go to the kitchen now. Or not right now, but the video is going to go to the kitchen. And we're going to go and see some of the food prep that I do for the food that I'm eating. And I will see you guys there in the kitchen. We do these, I guess you call them smoothies, where we blend a lot of these vegetables and leafy things, antioxidant things. And once a week, we make 5 or 6 pre-mixed boxes for blending when we want to drink them during the week. And we're going to be working here together, me and Stacy. It's hard to find her; she's running all around here. And we will be doing this and just showing you kind of the things that we go through for the food prep. This is this week's selection of wonderful smoothie ingredients. As you can see, a lot of bright colors. Those are beets. I call them dirt because they taste like dirt. Here we have a pot of water that is boiling. We make a lot of use of these ramen baskets. They're very useful for blanching and boiling of eggs. What kind of vegetable is this? Kale?
Yeah.
Kale, that's right. I'm very unknowledgeable. It's kale is being washed. Wash your vegetables, people. Wash your vegetables. Are you excited about these vegetables, Stacy?
No.
They're called what again?
Turnip green.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard of that. What the? It's a real thing. Okay. Range hood, very important. A range hood is a very important item.
I think.
Any bacteria or bugs or whatever?
Yeah.
Overfilled it.
Yeah.
Somebody overfilled the thing again.
Not anymore. With my stuffing technique, it compensates. The water changes color.
I know, it's crazy.
And then you see, like, it turns a very nice green. Right? This is better than when it was raw.
Mm-hmm. It's all about looks with you. It always has been.
Maybe this is how it's meant to be.
That's why you married me. It's harder because this is hot now. It was cold.
Yeah.
When before Normally we can get more eggs, but today we're just doing 5. So as you can see, we've done a lot of hard work today to do our meal prep. We're going to have 5 of these servings of smoothie ingredients. We will be putting 3 of them in the freezer, 2 of them in the fridge. And as we take one to the fridge, we'll move one from the fridge to the freezer just to maintain optimal freshness. And when we do the blending, I'll be sure to show you how that goes. So it's smoothie making day, and we're working hard together again. We're going to start prepping some of the extra ingredients that we add when we make the fresh smoothies. So as you can see here, we're prepping some avocado, some lime. Looks like we're also doing some apple. I have an apple. I have a pen. Not that funny, right? No, not funny. So here we are putting the vegetables into the blender. The blender we're using is the Thermomix. We've had this for like 10 years. We bought it used. If any of you have recommendations on better blenders for making smoothies, maybe some of you are avid smoothie makers yourself, I'm looking for recommendations because yeah, it looks like we're doing quite a bit of this. It might make sense for us to get a more specialized or more optimal tool for making these smoothies. We also add a few extra ingredients here. We add some black sesame powder, recommended by some family friends. We add a bunch of organic acai powder, just because acai is like one of the #1 antioxidants. So there's some acai, 2 tablespoons of acai powder. And here comes some sesame powder, black sesame powder. I think that's healthy. I have no idea. It's just it's our Asian health additive. So that looks really good, right? We put the whole lime in there because rinds contain a lot of vitamins, a lot of nutrients. We're gonna blend that all together. We're gonna add a little bit of ginger because I said so. Okay, it's gonna be a little noisy. You may want to cover your ears because it's blending time. Oh, the TV is so loud. Look how appetizing that is. Wow. Oh, wonderful. Delicious. Is that yours or mine?
Mine. You have the big marker now.
Oh dear. I do get the extra large portion with oil too, remember?
Yes.
Oh dear. Why is my mug so much larger? Okay. Yum. So delicious. So delicious. Oh, goodness. So if you want to look at the drink, it looks wonderful, right? Very healthy. I'm going to drink it now for all of you to witness that I do drink this regularly. As you can see, I've drunk half of it so far. Do I have to keep filming all the way to the end? We cannot. I don't know. Okay. Really good for me. Almost there. did it. Really, really good. Okay. Well, wasn't that a delightful smoothie? We actually went to Costco after filming that scene, and I ran into a Vitamix salesman who was demoing the product there, and was just kind of chatting with him and asking him about the Vitamix's ability for blending vegetable smoothies. One of the reasons I make those faces when I'm drinking our smoothie is because there's all these little bits of fiber in there that kind of scratch your throat as I swallow. And so I was just inquiring with the Vitamix guy, hey, can you blend vegetables so that the fiber's not there? And he told me that if you take celery, which is very fibrous, and a little bit of ice, and blend it in the Vitamix for 2 minutes, you're able to make like a celery juice and you wouldn't notice any fiber at all. It occurred to me that we have been only blending our vegetables for 30 seconds. So that night we tried blending longer. I believe it's 1:30. I don't think we went quite to 2 minutes. And the smoothies are now much more smoothie-like. I don't really feel the fiber anymore. They're just kind of rich, thick drinks. And so the faces that I make are slightly different. Some of the other foods that I forgot to mention earlier that I really can't eat anymore, mostly all the fried foods. French fries are like the most inflammatory thing you can have. So I can't eat French fries anymore. But I still can eat fast food. I mean, once a week or so I'll go to Chipotle. And I was there today and I noticed that they have this menu item called the super salad, where instead of giving you rice, they give you like a bed of romaine, kale, and baby spinach. So I had one of those, and the meats and the beans and the salsas are all good for you. And I get a side of guacamole, because that's also anti-inflammatory and good for me. So this kind of wraps up the food episode. The episode, I'm not going to consider this episode over though, because I really had meant to include the sports stuff. So we'll call this episode 3A. And I know, some of you are waiting to see, is Kevin going to be topless? Because he's always topless in every episode. Well, we won't know whether I'm topless in this episode till we finish watching next week's episode, episode 3B. I think that's all I have to cover for today. Hope you guys all enjoy your Labor Day weekend. Subscribe if you like my channel. There will be a link here for episode 3B when it comes out next week. And that's it.